Hello everybody, this is another Hot Wheels collector video, and today I've got another brand new Hot Wheels casting for you guys. This is the 87 Audi Quattro, and this thing is a brand new casting for 2024's D-Case. I would also like to mention that this car does feature in the 2024 Hot Wheels Turbo mini-series, and is car number 2 out of 5 in that set. I would also like to mention that this is car number 102 out of 250 for the 2024 Hot Wheels mainline. Now then, before we go any further into this video and we take a look at this car in a bit more detail, I would first of all like to mention where I was able to buy this car. So I was able to buy this car here in the UK at the price of £1.49 from my local Lidl store, or one of my local Lidl stores. I've got quite a few near me, but yeah, I was able to buy this thing as well as everything else that I wanted from the D-Case. I could not have been happier. Some of them were harder to find. I did have to go to a second Lidl store to find the Nissan Skyline R33 with the Godzilla livery on it. That is a very popular model, a beautiful model, but a very, very hyped one and a hard one to find. But yeah, I was able to find that just a little bit later in that same day. So yeah, I was able to pick up every single car I wanted from the D-Case. I could not have been happier since I was able to buy every car I wanted, and I was able to get them at such a low price. £1.49 is the cheapest you will be able to buy any Hot Wheels mainlines here in the UK. Honestly, I was so thrilled with my purchase that day. Now that's it for where I was able to find this thing, so now let's move on to some facts about the real life car. So in real life, this car was produced between 1980 and 1988, and this thing had a 2.2 litre inline-5 engine with a KKK turbo mounted to it, and this engine produced 197 horsepower and 210 pound-feet of torque, converting to around 285 newton meters of torque. This thing was also front-engined and all-wheel drive and had a 5-speed manual gearbox. This thing also had a top speed of 138 miles per hour, that converts to around 222 kilometers per hour, and this thing had a pretty decent 0 to 62 time in around 7.1 seconds. That is really good, especially since this car is pretty old nowadays, and that's still a very impressive 0 to 62 time. This thing also had a curb weight of 1,300 kilograms, so it's not the lightest car, and when this car was new it costed between £14,500 and £33,000 depending on which year you bought this car, because this thing's value did increase over its production run. By the end of its production run it was valued a lot higher than at the start. When inflation is considered, this car cost when it was new around £69,000 to £110,000, and that converts to around $87,800 in the US, and that goes up to $139,700 in the US as well. And now this thing has an average value of around $74,300 US in America, and that converts to around £58,600 here in the UK. But that's it for the facts about the real life car, so now let's move on to my in-depth look and in-depth showcase of this little Hot Wheels model. Alright, so kicking off this showcase then, we'll first of all take a look at the side of this car, and I would first of all like to mention the wheel choice on this thing. So this car is rolling on the 10-spoke wheels which first debuted in 2003, and on this car they have been painted in chrome. Next up, for the colour of this thing then, this car has been painted in a standard glossy red colour, which is not metallic at all, and this colour is accurate to the real life 1987 Audi Quattro, which is great to see. Next up, onto the tampo work then, there's plenty of it on the side of this thing, so let's jump straight into this. So first of all, you can see the Hot Wheels logo being tampoed on here in black, and just above that you can see some vents being tampoed on here in black too. You can also see the Audi logo being tampoed onto the door of this thing as well in black, and it does have a faded look to it off to the left of that logo. It is meant to look like that, so don't worry if your car has this same design. It is meant to be that way, so don't stress. It is a design cue here which does feature on the real life car as well as this Hot Wheels model. It is not a defect. And finally, you can see this car's door handle has been tampered on here in silver. It is not just tampered on here though, it also does feature in the metal casting in the form of a protrusion, which is great to see. Next up, onto the metal casting then. First of all, I would like to mention that this car's fuel filler cap does feature here engraved very nicely. I've already mentioned that this car's door handle features in the metal casting here. You can also see this car's wing mirror features in the metal casting too. It's great to see this Hot Wheels model does have wing mirrors. It makes this thing look a lot more realistic and complete in my opinion, which is really great. But that is it for the metal casting, so now onto the plastic usage. I would like to mention that this car's side windows are completely wound up, and this thing does receive a little bit of smoked window tinting to its windows in the form of a little bit of black window tint. And hopefully you can see that this car is left-hand drive, and this thing does have black interior plastic. But that's really it for the side of this thing, so now let's move straight on to the front of this car. Alright, so taking a look at the front of this car then, we've got plenty of details here, so let's jump straight into this without wasting too much time. First of all, let's take a look at the tamper work. So first of all, you can see this car's headlights being done in a realistic look. These headlights have been tampered on here in a mixture of grey, silver, white and black. You can also see this car's main front grille being tampered on here in black as well, and on that front grille we do have the Audi badge here as well, which has been tampered on here in silver. Next up, I would like to mention that this car's lower lights have been tampered on here as well. We've got the fog lights, which have been tampered on here in a mixture of silver, and also they do have a black outline to them. You can also see this car's turn signal lights as well, being tampered on here in orange, once again with a black outline to them. And finally, in terms of tamper work, I would like to mention that this car's front license plate has been tampered on here. It has been tampered in white with the black Quattro writing on it. But that's it for the tamper work, so now onto the metal casting. First of all, I would like to mention that you can see there are loads of little lower vents on this thing, featuring engraved very nicely into the metal casting. And I would also like to mention that this car's front splitter, or front chin, does feature in the metal casting here as well. But that's really it for the front of this car, so now let's move on to the next side of this thing. Alright, so taking a look at the next side of this car then, it's pretty much the exact same as the previous side, other than there is no fuel filler cap here. Of course, you can pause this video here and have a look for yourself if you are looking for something specific, but if not, let's move straight onto the rear of this car. Alright, so taking a look at the rear of this car then, as you can see there's no tamper work here, which is a shame, but there's still plenty of details in the form of metal casting and plastic usage. So let's jump straight into this. So first of all, you can see this car's spoiler in the metal casting. You can also see this car's rear license plate holder featuring in the metal casting here too, engraved very nicely. You could easily add your own rear license plate to this car using something like a permanent sticker. You can also see this car's rear lights in the metal casting here too. Once again, you could easily add your own details to these rear lights using something like acrylic paint or a Sharpie. Although I will say the rear lights on this car don't look too bad, as they are painted red just like the rest of the car, so they do look kind of like accurate to the real life car, because of course the real life car does have red rear lights. So yeah, technically these do look pretty accurate, and they don't stand out too much as lacking detail. And finally, in terms of metal casting, I would like to mention that this car's lower reflectors do feature here, engraved very nicely into the metal casting. If you really wanted to, you could add your own details to them as well, using something like Sharpie or acrylic paint as well. And finally, onto the plastic usage then, the only thing I do want to mention is we do have this car's exhaust, which does have two tailpipes to it, being created by the black base plastic of this thing. But that is it for the rear of this car, so now let's move on to the top of this car, the final side. Alright, so taking a look at the top of this car then, the details do not stop yet. So first of all, you can see this car's spoiler featuring in the metal casting from a top view. You can also see this car does have two protrusions near the rear window of this car in the metal casting. On the real life car, these are simply part of the rear window trim. Originally, I was very confused as to what these were, but after doing some research, I have confirmed that is simply what they are. And I would also like to mention that this car does actually have a rear wiper, which is really cool. We don't see that very very often at all on Hot Wheels models. It makes this car look very, very realistic, and I'm very happy to see that featuring in the window plastic of this car. What a great job the Hot Wheels team have done there. I'm so happy to see that small detail featuring on this thing. And flipping this car around, you can also see that this car's aerial does feature in the metal casting as well, in the form of a small protrusion from the rest of the body of this thing. And the realistic details do not stop yet. We've also got windshield wipers on this car, featuring in the window plastic. This is great to see, just like the rear wiper on this car. Again, it makes this thing look a lot more realistic and complete, in my opinion, of course. And finally, I would like to mention that you can see this car does have some hood vents. These do feature in the form of a hole or shut off in the metal casting, which does lead through to the black interior plastic of this thing. There is also a small bulge in the metal casting on the hood of this car, which is accurate to the real life car. Hopefully you can see that there. It is very hard to see, as it is a very small and subtle bulge, just like the real life car. But that is really it for the top of this car, and that is also it for my showcase of this thing. So now it is time for my final thoughts and review on this car. Alright, so now on to my final thoughts and review about this car. Overall, this thing is absolutely beautiful. I think the Hot Wheels team have done a great job on this casting. I love the fact that this thing does have wing mirrors, and this thing also does have windshield wipers. It also does have a rear wiper as well. That is insanely awesome to see. This thing looks very, very detailed. It looks very accurate to the real life car, and overall, as I say, the Hot Wheels team have done a great job on this casting. I also like the colour on this thing. I think it is accurate to the real life Audi Quattro. The tampo work here is very nice. It does the job very well, looks fantastic and very accurate to the real life car as well. I also like the wheel choice on this thing as well. They suit this thing very nicely and they do look very factory fresh, which is great to see since the rest of the car also does have a factory fresh look to it. Overall, a great model from the Hot Wheels team. Very, very well done indeed. But that does lead me onto my score out of 10 for this model. So what am I going to give this thing out of 10? In my opinion, this is a 10 out of 10 car. It's so detailed, it has all the details I wanted and more, and overall this thing is just fantastic. I am so happy with how this thing has turned out. It just looks so beautiful. What a great piece to add to anyone's collection. I definitely recommend you pick this thing up for your collection. You definitely will not be disappointed, especially if you collect Audis or rally cars. But that is really it for this video. So if you guys did enjoy, make sure to like. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of this car in the comments section down below. Do you like this Hot Wheels model? Is there anything you don't like about it? Let me know in the comments section. I will be reading all of your comments, and I love hearing what you guys think about all of the cars which I do review. But that's really it for this video, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye everyone, take care.